I have a feeling Nick Castellanos was listening to you when you said live your truth, because it sounds like he lived his a couple nights ago. All right, we got drama with the Philadelphia Phillies. They lose last night. Not a good game, right? They didn't, Luzardo wasn't at his best, and the bullpen stinks. We know this. And they didn't hit a bunch last night, so they lost. Last night they lost. They took a loss to Miami. Hopefully it's the only one in this series. But typically after a loss, that's the conversation. This really has nothing to do with last night's game. It's actually about who was not in the lineup for last night's game and what happened the night before. So we got word yesterday, and it was like, wait, what? That Nick Castellanos was not in the starting lineup. The reason that is a big deal is Nick Castellanos had a very long streak of playing in every single game, to the point where
Iron Man.
He was the team's Iron Man. He had passed Jimmy Rollins in terms of consecutive games. No Philly had a consecutive game streak as long as Castellanos was working on since Pete Rose. I mean, it's been a long time where he played every single day, even including last year when the guy was struggling. They put him out there every day. So when he was in the lineup yesterday, I was like, wait, what? Did I see that wrong? Well, then we got word. No, we didn't see it wrong. There was a reason. So 2 nights ago, Nick Castellanos was taken out of the game for defense late in the game. He did not like that. He said something to Rob Thomson that apparently crossed the line, and Topper, as punishment, did not play him yesterday. Let's hear Rob Thomson yesterday explaining the Castellanos situation.
Last night, one of the things about Nick, one of the many things about Nick that I love, is that he's very emotional. He loves to play, and he loves to play every inning of every game. I just thought last night he made an inappropriate comment after he came out, and so today he's not going to play, and I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, so Topper decided to bring us behind the curtain, but then kind of stop it there, right? He didn't let us know.
He said something inappropriate.
Yeah, and he left it there. All right, let's hear from Scott Fransky on the Castellanos response yesterday, and then let's flesh this out, because I have a lot of thoughts here, and my brain and my heart are in different places. I'm going to tell you how I feel, because I think this is a tricky one. The Phillies will open up a can of worms here. Let's hear Fransky yesterday explaining how Castellanos responded in the clubhouse.
He said, quote, "I understand the decision. It was when I got taken out. I wasn't happy about it. I spoke my mind. He said," meaning Thompson, "he said that I crossed a line, so my punishment is that I'm not playing." The follow-up question was if it was frustrating for him, given how he prides himself on playing every day. Nick's response was, it's his decision. He's the manager.
Yeah, that sounds that doesn't sound like Castellanos is obviously happy right now, and you can understand why. Or one more from Scott Fransky here. Was Castellanos surprised it went to the level of having to not play in a full game?
I can tell you that the idea of taking him out of the game defensively, I can almost assure you that Rob Thomson would not do that on the fly without talking to Nick about that first. Nick is an everyday player who plays every inning of every game and loves to do so. And Rob understands that wholeheartedly and loves that about Nick and respects that a great deal about Nick. It definitely wasn't a surprise to Nick when it was put in motion last night. He knew that it was coming. Take that for what it is.
All right, so Scott explaining that Topper, and what I read that was Topper probably had told him at some point, we might take you out of the game late in the game for defense. Rojas went in. Now, his spot in the lineup came up one more time on Monday night. Perhaps that was what annoyed Castellanos. I don't know. Here's where I'm at on this. In 215-592-9494, I typically side with the coaches in this. In general, like if there's a player being a me guy or insubordinate, I tend to think the coach has to put his foot down and say, hey, come on, a team first, right? But Hugh, a couple things strike me about this that are odd, and it's why I don't fully support Rob Thomson in this. I don't think Topper's crazy for it. I think there's a lot of gray area here. Number one, Castellanos has been here years. He has never been a good defensive outfielder. Never. In the playoffs a couple years ago, or the last couple years, I always said maybe he should come off the field late in games, just like I said about Trey Turner. They never seem to do it. So we chose now, right after all these years of him not being a good defense player, now is the time to do this? All right, that's a little interesting. Second, let's not forget where these games are going on. This is down in Miami. His family is there. I feel like Topper chose to do this at a very odd time. And I know they're trying to win games, but Guys, he did it to him in Miami against the Marlins. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, the Mets are in town this weekend. We got a lead late in the game. Soto and Lindor are coming up. I got to get Rojas on the field for defense. He did it against the Marlins in Miami, in his hometown where his family's watching the game. And then, I don't know what was said. And perhaps it went to a level, Hugh, that is just ridiculous and you had to do something. But he ended his streak. This isn't like just benching anyone for a game, right? If he didn't have a streak, I think he'd be like, whatever, one game. This guy's prideful about this. And to do it in Miami, in front of his family, I thought Topper went to a level of not just discipline, but I thought he embarrassed Castellanos by the way this whole thing went down. And maybe he had to be embarrassed. I don't know what he said. But I thought Topper went a little bit far. 215-592-9494. I just keep asking myself, why now? There was a piece of news that came out this morning that they maybe been butting heads for a while. Castellanos felt slighted when he was dropped in the order on opening day. I don't know what's going on here, Hugh. You've lived a life where you've either been in this spot or you see maybe teammates in this spot where, butting heads with a coach. What's your perspective? Because mine is, I get what Topper did, but in his hometown, after all these years, it felt very heavy-handed to me.
Two things that I'm going to be asked to be allowed to do today.
Okay.
One of them is long talk.
Okay, well.
And recklessly speculate.
Oh, that's what you do best.
Reckless speculation about what was said. Because the first thing, when I heard he was benched, I called somebody or I texted somebody that I knew that I thought was going to be down there. He wasn't there. And asked him what was said. He didn't know because they didn't go. But my thing is, from the limited knowledge that I have about the Phillies and the locker room and everything, they feel like they're a close-knit group. And it feels like Topper's a player's coach. And it feels like he's the type of guy where you can have tough conversations and he doesn't take it to heart. So, with all of that being said, my first question is, what did Casianos say to make Topper that mad that he put his playing streak on the line? Because that's a big deal. As we know, especially given what he played like last year, he was struggling last year. And there was some talk about taking him out of the lineup last year. Didn't do it. Stuck with the guy. Hung in there with him. Let him work his way through it. And, eventually he started playing a little better, but still, he had a long stretch where he was not playing well.
Yep.
So, my question, everything you said is valid. He's at home, his family's from there, all that. So what did he say in that moment to make Topper that mad that he said, you know what, I'm going to hit you where it hurts? Because that's exactly what he did. I don't know. I don't know what was said. I don't know if this was something that was brewing for a long time. But I feel like Casianos is in the wrong, especially when you talk about how Topper has ridden with you through all the ups and downs that you've had since I've been here, that I've seen you be a part of.
It's been a lot.
And for you to, whatever you said, it must have been real bad for him to snatch your streak from you like that.
Especially there in Miami.
Yes.
Especially, and again, we know how much that streak beats him. 215-592-9494. Where do you come down on this? Team Topper, Team Castellanos? I know there's a lot of people out there that support Topper in this. I feel like there's been more support for Topper I've seen than the other side. I can't fully support how heavy-handed Topper was. Again, none of us know what was said. Clearly a line was crossed. That's obvious. He must have said something that clearly made Topper react. But after all this time, they've obviously had issues before. That was reported this morning. After all this time, Castellanos, that streak mattered to him. And to take it away from him, it felt very heavy-handed. It just felt like, not only am I going to sit him, I'm going to tell everyone and then make him respond to what I said. It felt heavy-handed from Rob Thomson. And I'll also say this from a Castellanos perspective. If I was Nick Castellanos and I was playing the way I have this year, which is obviously not great defensively, you know what I'd look around and say, why don't you pull the other guys off the field who don't play good defense late in the game? Like in the last couple of years, Castellanos has been a below-average right fielder. Trey Turner's been a below-average shortstop. And Trey's playing better this year. I just mean in general the last few years. Mm-hmm. Trey never comes off the field for Edmundo Sosa late in the game. It's the same thing. It would make them better. I understand why he probably takes it personal. Like now you take me off the field. None of the big games, but in Miami with my family here, it just feels, the whole thing feels weird to me, and I don't fully support Topper. And I'm concerned now that they're going to have a sulking Castellanos for the next whatever, because he's an emotional guy. I don't know if this thing just blows over and he's back in line if everyone's smiling today. I don't know.
Yeah, but I like the way you framed it, but it sounds a little selfish to me.
From
when
his
you talk
perspective.
about from his perspective.
I get that, yeah.
When you talk about what this team is trying to accomplish, and we knew going into this season that it was going to be some uncomfortable moves that were made when we were talking about shaking up the lineup, the starting lineup early on. That was something that was uncomfortable, moving guys around, trying to get the best for the team at this point. So when you say, why didn't you do this, that, and the third for the others, I could come back if I'm Topper and say, well, hell, I did it for you last year. So why are you complaining about the way that I manage when this is where you forgot where you came from because I looked out for you last year. And you can't worry about the way that I manage other guys when I've handled you with kid gloves for the most part. See, that's where, if that's the case, since we're recklessly speculating.
Oh, we're here now.
Yeah, we're here. Then he's in the wrong. He's in the wrong for being selfish and putting his needs above the needs of the team. Because like you said, Topper doesn't strike me as the type of guy, and Scott said it as well, Fransky, that does anything without notifying his guys. So what's the problem? If you're not playing well and he's trying to win a game and you've bought into what he's trying to do, what's the problem?
Well, that's fair. It's a fair point you make. At 215-592-9494. I guess my question is why now, right? Like, Casianos has never been a good right fielder. Let's just call it for what it is. He's exceedingly average, probably below since the minute he got here. Mm-hmm. So all these years, all these games, he allows him to finish the game. He doesn't take him out for defense. Now we've reached that point. I mean, if I'm Nick, I'm like, what changed? Why me now? Bohm stays on the field. Turner stays on the field.
The sense of urgency has changed.
Okay.
That's what's changed.
Maybe.
Topper took the pledge.
Topper took the pledge. Well, that I like to hear. All right, Kyle, what do you got for us? What are you feeling on all this?
I mean, we got sensitive Giglio today.
Not sensitive.
I mean, can we grow some cojones?
It's not sensitive. No, Topper,
spine.
Family. Hold on a second. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words. What did he say to Topper to bench him?
Okay, but
words. I need to know.
No, but think about it.
Sensitive is Topper.
I don't need to know what he said because I do. No, I already know that it crossed the line. Topper said it crossed the line. Topper is the most even keel guy that we've seen in this town in terms of like a sports figure in how long? Like for him to bench a guy that, well, by the way, owes his streak to Rob Thomson in the first place, where Topper kept playing him when he sucked all last season, but he let him work through it. That streak is directly attributed to Rob Thompson's faith in him. So, first of all, he owes that to Rob Thomson. But, like, here's the thing. I don't give a crap that his family is in Miami because how many times... Like, Nick Castellanos has been in the big leagues for like 10 years, okay? They've seen the guy play baseball before.
Sure.
Right? Like, you cannot disrespect your boss, the manager, in any setting at all. Like, if say all of a sudden my family came into town for the first time in forever, and this is the only opportunity, this isn't the case, but the only opportunity they had to listen to me on this show and the radio. But this morning, I said to Rod, dude, you have no idea what the hell you're doing when it comes to programming this radio station. And he goes, guys, I'm taking Kyle off the show for the day. That is what has to happen. Like, I mean, that's the appropriate response. And, I mean, I get it. Like, Nick Castellanos can't disrespect him like that. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, if Topper feels the need to have to do that and Nick Castellanos crossed the line, then Castellanos could sulk all he wants.
Yeah, and he might.
That's just what had to happen. And at the end of the day, it's one game. Like, how often do we criticize Rob Thomson for sleeping in the dugout, or people have called him Rob Zombie before, and we didn't like when he didn't let them retaliate against Atlanta. Well, like, now he's putting his foot down and saying, guys, I am the manager. You have to respect me. He can't let the inmates run the asylum.
I get that. And you said a lot of things that make sense there. When managers change their perspective on things, it doesn't always fly in the clubhouse. Like Rob Thomson, you can't just go from like, hey, I'm happy-go-lucky guy to you're out of the game now and your streak is over. That's because then look, you're like, what happened?
But doesn't that tell you that it was egregious?
It probably was. It probably was.
I mean, think about what we know about both guys. Nick Castellanos is a very passionate guy. Like, he has a very high opinion of himself as a baseball player, right? And Rob Thomson is a player's coach or like a player's manager. So like that tells me everything I need to know right there.
You also need to know your people. I'm not a boss, but like you mentioned, Rod here, you have to know your people. Right? There's some people here that probably could take constructive criticism better than others. Nick Castellanos is a baby. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. He has a little me guy to him. Now, he's not a bad guy, but His streak matters to him. Where he bats in the order matters to him. So obviously, and you're right that who cares? His family's seen him a million times. I bet it matters to him. His family's always he seems like a family guy.
Well, then that's the message.
Well, but you know what? If I'm just telling you, if I'm Castellanos, I'm like, you've been thinking about this for a while. Scott told us that, right? That they've probably been thinking about getting him off the field for defense for a while. Why here? Why all the series? Again, like I said, this weekend against the Mets, first place on the line, 9th inning, 1-run game. Get his ass off the field.
I mean, he should have picked a better series to mouth off to Rob Thomson. I mean, honestly though, because
it just feels like Topper created this.
But from what
and then Castellanos went too far.
But what we know about both of these guys is that I think we heard and we read from who reported this is that this isn't the first time that they've sort of butted heads or not seen eye to eye about something. And I think it was about the him in the lineup earlier this year.
Yeah, the Athletic had it. So Castellanos, this is from the Athletic this morning. Castellanos, according to team sources, has complained about disrespect whenever he's hitting lower in the lineup. It was something he voiced in the spring training, and he hit 7th on opening.
And whatever that was, it didn't come to this. So clearly, what he did crossed the line. What if, for instance, he said something about Johan Rojas in front of all the other players in the dugout? You're replacing me for this stiff? Made
me laugh.
That sends a ripple effect.
Of course it does. Look, I'm not saying that Topper is out of bounds here. I just feel like he felt to me like Topper picked a fight with a sensitive player at a weird time. And now we're here. So we got to sort this out. 215-592-9494. Where do you come down? Team Topper, Team Casti? I get it, but I don't fully support Topper on this. It felt heavy-handed. That's the words I'll use.